Hello, today is the 2nd of October, it's Monday, and I am reading part 5 of Eyes of Horus. We are in chapter 8 now, Women of the ORYX, and this is a book of Joan Marshall Grants. She was a seer. She could remember her previous incarnations, and she passed away in 1989. And she wrote 7 books about reincarnation, and this is her life as Ra-Up, a male, 3,500 years BC. He's visiting the royal city, Ra, and this chapter is entitled Women of the ORYX, which is the nomarch he will be ruling one day. Since her return from the royal city, Kias had spent most of her time at HORUS-A. If she grieved for Menhed, she concealed it even from me, and her only interest seemed to be in helping Hanuk further his plans. She took no part in the administration of the nome, nor did she accompany Mary and me when we went from place to place, staying with overseers and minor nobles. I was still hopeful that the rulership of Egypt would pass into the hands of the Watchers without bloodshed, but Mary seemed to share with Kias a foreboding of war. The Watchers will triumph, but first there will be clouds over the sun, and vultures will gather over battlefields, where the blood of both slayer and slain will be Egyptian. Stop imagining horrors, Mary. There may have to be some fighting, but that is something for which we have long prepared. I spent 3 years at the house of the captains. Would you have me betray all that I learned there? I don't think I would be frightened of battles if they weren't a reason for us being parted from each other. When I make myself see clearly, I know that you aren't going to be killed, and that we shall have a long life together. But even to be prepared for an hour is a squandering of our happiness. So how do you expect me not to dread your going to war? You know I find it bitter to leave you. I think the reason why we have fewer of the warriors caste than any other known is because the contented man does not want to risk leaving his family. You told me the ORYX had not been to war during your lifetime. Nor has it, but the ORYX would have to obey Pharaoh if he should raise a levy. When there was a rising in the land of gold, it was quelled by soldiers from the tortoise. But it was only by chance they were chosen and not we. The farmer and his wife can plough their fields together if they wish. The wife of a fisherman can go in her husband's boat. It is only the soldier and his wife who cannot share their work together. Later I was to wonder if this casual remark had been the spark which kindled a new idea in Kias, but at the time I saw in it no special significance. Mary said she wanted to visit Royden, and when we reached HORUS-A, she and Kias spent much time together in earnest conversation. 500 young watchers from other gnomes, whose parents did not belong to the warrior caste, had recently come to HORUS-A, asking that they might be trained to follow the standard of the ORYX. A soldier's village had been built for them on Rodan's estate, and Sebek had gone there to supervise their instruction. Sebek told me he thought it would be best to arm nearly all of them with a mace, which took less time to master than either bow or javelin. There are only about 30 of them who are already skilled with a bow, added Sebek. They used to be wildfowlers and come from homes in the marsh country. I approved Sebek's plans, for the need for additional soldiers was urgent. It seemed more than probable that the armies of the royal nome would be loyal to Menhed, and if the north should join him also, the south, at its present strength, would be outnumbered by 2 to 1. You say you will have less than 400 mace bearers and only 30 bowmen out of the 500? The standing army of the ORYX is 1,000 on the tallies, but that means less than 800 men who can be spared to fight. The rest must be used to carry supplies of arrows, fresh flights of javelins, all the many things needed by an army which moves out to war. And after our first battle, we shall have wounded to care for, even though this will be easier than if we were on foreign territory. That evening I was thinking over what Sebek had said, and as usual had voiced my thoughts to Mary. "I'm glad Sebek told you that," she said. "It will make you more understanding of the new idea which has come to Chios." She has been working on it for some time, and now her plans are almost ready. She realized before any of us that the army under Menhed may be stronger than ours. She says it is not so much that they are better trained, but they have had practical experience and are greater in number. That is why she has been teaching some of the younger women how to follow the army, to carry supplies and look after the wounded. "Poor Chios," I said. "I shall hate having to tell her that her idea is quite impractical." "I should hate to listen to you saying anything so silly." I was having a bath, pouring water over myself with a copper dipper, and I was so startled by Mary's last remark that I let it fall into the jar. "Look what you've made me do," I said, somewhat crossly. She mocked me gently. Have I been magical again? It seemed to me that I was sitting at the other end of the room, cleaning my face with almond oil, watching you washing yourself rather clumsily. It only shows that appearances are an illusion, for really I was curled up in the bottom of your water jar and snatched the dipper out of your hand to tease you. I went across to her, rubbing my hair dry with a towel of unbleached linen. "What have you and Chios been hatching between you? Have you decided that men are better stay at home and let women become the warriors?" She tried to look stern. "Row up. Stop dripping all over the floor. You've walked over my dress and spoiled all the pleats." "I didn't notice it was a dress. After all, it is on the floor." "It wasn't a favorite dress," she said magnanimously. "Come and sit down on this stool where I can see you. If you wander about, I keep trying to watch you, and then I get careless with my face." She had wiped off the oil and was now rubbing a paste, which had a fresh, slightly acrid scent, into her neck and forehead. I knew from experience that this would be left on for a few minutes before she reached another stage in the curious rites on which she thought the preservation of her beauty depended. I had also learned that when Mary had something particularly important to tell me, of which she was not sure I would approve, she usually kept it for some time, such as this. So I was not surprised when, making her voice as casual as possible, she said, "Chios and I have decided that it's quite time the tradition of soldiers' women not being allowed to share their husbands' lives came to an end." After serious consideration, Hanuk agrees with her, and they have recently been to the soldiers' village, the one near the house of the captains, to talk the idea over with the wives. "It's kind of you to tell me of such an important change in my army. After all, I'm only the captain of the ORYX. I suppose I may enjoy the same privileges as my soldiers, and take you with me into battle." "Of course," she said calmly. "That's really why I helped Chios with her idea." "You have concealed from me your skill with the bow, or is it the mace or javelin you will choose while you are with me?" Mary remained unruffled by my attempt at sarcasm. "I shall not take any part in the actual fighting. Chios may, for she is very skilled with arrows and has been practicing at his target every day since she came here. I shall command the women and see they do what they are told and don't quarrel among themselves. I shall also look after the wounded. Chios has promised to do that too, which is very unselfish of her. I think only Hanuk could have persuaded her not to be in the first flight of bowmen." I was relieved, though prematurely. "You mean that you and Chios are going to get a house ready to receive the wounded? just as she and I made ready for those who were stricken with a pestilence 4 years ago? Certainly it is a good idea that those women of the soldiers' families who are not needed to look after small children should be allowed to help you. Ever since I saw the work Chios did during the Blue Death, I have been convinced that women should be allowed to play their part in the care of the sick and wounded. I am sure Father would agree to you using the south wing of his house for this purpose, and if you need some still more accommodation, you have only to ask Rodan for a house in HORUS-A. Chios has thought of this already. Hanuk has arranged for 2 healer priests to be at each place, with as many women as they need to carry out their instructions. But those women will not necessarily be the wives of soldiers. Any watcher who has proved himself suitable would do. Chios has already sent 50 women to the temple of Ra, so that the healer priests can instruct them in what they ought to know. Where are you sending the rest of the healer priests? Nifa Ankh tells me that he now has 20 of them fully trained, and more who are not yet initiated. 2 will be at home with Father, 2 here at HORUS-A. 4 will remain at the temple to look after our own people. That will leave 12 to come with Chios and me, and the 30 trained women who have sworn to follow us. Follow you where? How do I know? If I did, I could prepare the strategy of battle for you, as I should know just where Menhad was to be engaged. The only thing I can tell you is that we shall take the same road as the one on which you lead the ORYX. If you insist, I will keep them out of the actual fighting, at least until we have proved that women are not frightened of arrows, or no more than men are. They shall remain out of bowshot while the battle is going on, but be near enough to attend the wounded. Who are going to look after the wounded women? There won't be any. Healer priests still retain their traditional immunity and can move about even in the middle of the fighting to succor a wounded man, and the women who accompany them will share the same protection. It is not even as though we were going to fight foreigners. Chios knows Menhad, and she says that none of his soldiers would break the warrior code. So we shall be treated with honor, even if we are taken prisoner. And I am sure Menhad wouldn't refuse to let me share your prison if he captured you. We'd be quite happy as long as we were together, Rab, even if the place they shut us in was rather small and uncomfortable. Right, I'm finishing here the first part of this chapter, which is about the women of the ORYX.